All right, the one, the only, the great, Tony Basilio. Come on now, the voice of the common fan and one of the best out there in the business. Tony, how you doing, brother?
Mike, I love you, man. I'm so happy for your success. I'm clapping for you because I knew you when, just like you knew me when. And anybody that carves out a niche in this stuff these days, like you've done, more than carving out a niche, you got to really work hard at it. So much love for you, man.
I appreciate it. Yeah, and all the same to you, man. You've been an inspiration, and I know my dad, when he hears this, he's going to smile a little brighter tomorrow because anytime I get you on the show, he couldn't be more proud. So thank you for that. But man, all right, enough of the niceties. What in the hell's wrong with Tennessee's offense? This is a train wreck here.
I mean, where do you start? Offensive line's been kind of a mess. Their tackle play's been a mess. Receivers haven't been what they were supposed to be, but look, when your tackles don't function in pass blocking, just gums everything up.
Yeah.
And I think it's had an impact on Nico, who started out the year looking instinctive and athletic. And Matt Dixon, who is on with me a couple times a week, made a really good observation today, which is the further we're going into the season with him, the less instinctive and the worse he's playing, which is just not something you thought you'd say about somebody as talented as him, but that's the reality.
Right, and we're in just such a unique time, Tony, where players are getting paid, which again, that's a good thing, but the way we're doing it is so wacky to where, let's say you start getting coached. Some of these players probably need to be coached really hard, right? But you push them too hard. Hey, I'm going to hit that portal because I'm going to make money at LSU, at Alabama, at Georgia, at Kentucky, at South Carolina, on and on and on. So there's a fine line of, and there's rumors, some players healthy to play, but not interested in playing because they don't want to hurt their stock. They don't want to look bad. I mean, how do you correct these issues when you have all these others that compound it all?
That's why I wouldn't want that job for all the tea in China. And I know these guys make a lot of money. The head coaches make more than they should.
Right.
And the assistant coaches make a great living compared to just about the rest of society. And so as I think about everything you just said, you're absolutely accurate. I can't help but wonder, and I just say this to my SEC, to my Alabama brethren, I think Nick Saban got out because he knew his roster wasn't that good this year. And I think he was sick and tired of all this NIL stuff. I was talking to Kevin Skarbinski today, who told me that he understands. He's been down there forever, sort of like I've been here, but he understands that several kids went to him after they got beat last year in the playoffs and said, "Hey, coach, this is what it's going to take for me to come back next year." And Saban's like, "Look, I'm a football coach. I'm not a general manager. This is not the gig I signed up for." These days, Mike, you have to be cognizant of the fact as a coach that I've talked to guys who say that anything you say to these guys can and will be held against you. Because it's not just the players now, it's the agencies, and then it's all these people that are chirping in their ears. One of the things that I realize in watching the way adults interact with some of these young kids is that the counsel they get isn't always the best counsel. I was looking at the list of the top quarterbacks that Nico came in with, the Arch Manning and all these different players. And if you look at the top 20 on that list, 7 or 8 of those guys have already transferred. If it's not happening right away for me, I'm gone. If my head coach gets a gig at another place, I'm gone. If you say him to holler me, whatever, I'm gone. What are we doing? And, if you're a Tennessee booster and you're looking at Nico, who we kind of all believe is making about $2 million a year, what are they thinking as they're watching this? And if you think about not just him, but any of these guys, I was wondering today on the air out loud, do they go back to these guys at the end of the year and go, "Hey, it's all well and good that you made $2 million this year, but you're not getting that next year. because you didn't play to that level. Not saying him. I'm just talking about at all these places. Because as you were saying, the way the NCAA has this thing set up so that it's pay for play, but it's not. And you're not allowed to call it pay for play. We've got to pretend. I mean, obviously, you're paying a guy that kind of money because you expect him to perform at a certain level. This Lance Hurd guy, Tennessee's tackle that they got from LSU, that's a 5-star player. My understanding is we're paying him around $900,000. You might as well take your $900,000. I mean, that poor guy, he's been hurt the whole time. And, man, his pass protection, that's a rough watch.
Mm-hmm.
Protecting a passer. So that's what's happened to Tennessee's offensive football team this year is they've been hamstrung by poor tackle play, quarterback that's just out of rhythm and lost his confidence. And it's kind of a shame because their defense is so good and they have such an opportunity here.
Well, I can even do you one better, Tony. Imagine being an Oklahoma booster. Their 5-star quarterback, I have no idea what he's making, but let's be realistic. 5-star Oklahoma, they got all the money in the world. He's probably making bare
North
minimum
of 7 figures.
Yeah, bare minimum 700,000, probably $1 million, probably more.
Yeah.
And his ass on the bench. So imagine you're paying that guy, and after 3 or 4 games, they're like, we're better without him. I mean, imagine that scenario. So. I mean, again, these are just one or two examples, and I'm not saying these guys shouldn't get paid, but it's a wild and weird time. And no better example, I think, than Alabama, who, if you watch them closely, it looks like half their defensive guys don't even want to be out there. For what reason? I don't know if it's strictly NIL. I don't know if it's they're looking for the NFL. I don't know if it's they signed up to play for Nick Saban, and this guy's as great as an offensive mind as he is. He's the furthest thing from Nick Saban. Man, who needs this game more, Alabama or Tennessee? Because I think they both desperately need it.
Well, I'm back to this with Alabama. I ask you, what do they do well on defense?
Nothing really right now.
Nothing. They don't rush passer. They don't get guys on the ground in space. They're not very good ball skills wise in their back five. When they're in a dime, or nickel rather, I don't see. Again, I'm back to this. I think Nick Saban said, you know what? It's been fun. I'm looking at my roster. I don't sign up for losing. I don't want to go 9-3 or 8-4. We went to the playoff this year. We had a great year. I'm out of here. And I don't think I think the NIL thing is a good excuse. He had a pedestrian roster coming back this year. That's what Alabama's got. Look, Vanderbilt doesn't possess the ball for 40-plus minutes on you, run you out of their stadium, beat you going away, if, in fact, you've got some kind of championship roster. Now, on Saturday, I could see anything happen in this game. That said, Tennessee could blow this team out. I don't know how they would do that because they don't score enough, but they could. They could get blown out because Alabama does have that big play potential. And they could explode on somebody. Milroe puts it together, all that stuff. They could win a squeaker. They could lose a squeaker. There's not a result and a way to get to that result that's going to surprise me from either one of these two teams. And I think it's interesting that the loser of this game has to keep playing because I think you're going to remain in the playoff chase. I don't think you can assume just because you lost your second game in week 7 that you're out of it. I don't think you can assume that. We just don't know how this thing's going to play out. We've never seen it. And I still have a vision that there's going to be a 3-loss team from this league that's going to get into a playoff because these teams are going to beat on each other down the stretch. You just look at the schedules. There's too many good teams playing too many good teams down the stretch here in the last 6 weeks. And let me tell you, this is what it's all about. I love this playoff format. Love it. I love this playoff format. It's really good for the game.
And how big of a factor do you think the crowd will be in this game? Because I certainly think without it, Tennessee would have lost to Florida, certainly.
Oh, it's huge. These folks have waited for forever to see their football program back. A couple years ago, they had a team, but the program is finally back now. This is bigger than just one team. And Tennessee doesn't want to lose us. You know, when you go into the wilderness, I remember doing the show in the 90s. People be all over Fulmer after the Florida game.
Right.
And they'd go 11-1. And they'd be all over him at 11-1. Just all over him. And now, if you did something like that now, they would name everything after you on campus. And so, Mike, this is going to be a huge, tremendous crowd, a huge boost to the Vols on Saturday, I would think. Tennessee's got to do some good things, though, early in the game on offense, because there is a high sense of trepidation regarding the way the offense has performed to this point, and especially the quarterback. It's really worrisome, the level he's played at.
Right, but again, you talk to so many fans. You're the voice of the common fan here. If Tennessee beats Alabama, be sitting here 6-1, win over Florida, win over Alabama, I have to think 99.9% of Tennessee fans, had you given them that offer in the offseason, they would have taken it and ran. Are we now again? Businesses like ours, we thrive on the passion. So I don't want to dull the passion. I don't want people to pump the brakes on it. But could we be just too hyper focused on what's wrong? The left tackle here, quarterback there, a drop pass there. This team can't play. Then all of a sudden we're 6-1, and you're firmly in the top 10, and you are a win or two away probably from locking up a playoff spot. Could all this negativity be flipped of a switch? You win on Saturday.
Sure. Are you kidding? Fan short for fanatic. We had a lot of people bitching and moaning, though, on our Garza Law fifth quarter fan reaction, which airs as soon as the game's over, and we're on over at our website at tclub.team, and people are just like, some people are just freaking out. And I'm going, how old are you? One guy, 30. Okay, since you've been alive, Tennessee's won like 2 of these against this team. Like, what are we doing? I mean, what are we doing here? And it's an interesting question you pose, because the losing fan base, again, from the Tennessee-Alabama game and across the league, losing fan base is always panic. And then when you win a close game and you're not pretty and there's things wrong with your team, the way I'm starting to think about the SEC is they've always told us down through the years, this is the closest thing to the NFL. And I really do believe that on any given Saturday, any one of these teams can beat any one of these teams, which to me means, let's say 4 spots in this playoff are carved out for the SEC. I believe that's the number. Look, if you want to convince me they're going to take a 10-2 Indiana team over a 9-3 SEC team, more power to you. I don't believe that. I think this thing's a TV show. I think Greg Sankey has a lot of say in who goes where. And so, look, he who has the gold makes the rules, and the SEC has the gold. So, and it's a TV show. My advice for any fan base is, you got to watch this thing to its conclusion. And you got to understand that when you get up that next day, even if you're like the Vols are 5-2, you still have an opportunity to get to a playoff. You could go 9-3 at the end of the year, and crazy things could happen, and you could sneak in. I mean, nobody knows how this thing's going to play out. I do know this. If you quit playing and you get your 4th loss, you're done. I think we could all say that.
Right. Do you already have your cigar purchased for after the game?
Yeah, I've got a guy, Mike in Portland, who sent me a whole case of these.
Nice.
See if I can show you what this is. This is called a Macanudo Inspirado. And we're ready here.
Yeah, if you got any
Ready.
spares, bring me one on Friday when I come up on your show.
I've got a ton of them, actually. I've got a box of them laying around here somewhere. Let me see if I can bring you some Inspirados.
Yeah, I would appreciate it because Tennessee might be using them. So again, if again, big if here, 6-1.
Yeah.
Do you think Tennessee will? Let's get a prediction from it. If not saying you're picking this, you're guaranteeing it or anything, but
Right.
if Tennessee beats Alabama, do they make the playoff? You think?
Yes. Because if they beat Alabama, that provides some buffer. Because I don't think this team's going to beat Georgia. Even though I don't think Georgia is what they were. Now, here's what's interesting, right? Georgia, you know the schedule's better than I do, but Georgia, before they play Tennessee, if they lose on Saturday, could end up having 3 losses before that game.
All right.
Right? Doesn't Ole Miss get them before?
Right, and that game's at Ole Miss.
Yeah. Everybody's flawed in this league. And by the way, I'm not sold on Texas. I'm not. Texas has been given just an absolute kiss and a gift of a schedule. They've laid it out for them. And they've treated Oklahoma like just straight garbage, the league has. I mean, if you stop and think about it, you look at those two schedules and lay them side by side, and you tell me how these are 2 members coming into the league, and these are the 2 schedules they fed these 2 teams. If anything, Texas is would be much more able to at least navigate Oklahoma's schedule. Oklahoma won't be in one piece by the time the season's over. If Tennessee wins Saturday, I'm really wordy with you today, Mike. I don't know. I just got off the air, and I'm wordy. Yeah, I think they will make the playoff if they win Saturday. It's a highly significant game from that standpoint.
Right. Now, if they lose it, though, you think, do they still have a shot to make the playoff? Like, they'd have to beat Georgia, I would assume. But can they get there if they drop it?
I don't see them winning at Georgia.
Yeah.
But I don't know. The thing that would hurt Tennessee as a 3-loss team would be that their overall schedule is not good. The teams that have rotated onto their schedule are not good. The teams give, like Oklahoma, for instance, them being down. NC State was their signature non-league game. I'm not sure how many wins NC State has left this season. I mean, that's a brutal football team. Brutal. So, I don't know if the Vols have a strong enough schedule. John Adams said today he doesn't know if Tennessee with 2 losses gets into the as a 10-2 team. John Adams, the News Sentinel, who's on with us on Thursday, he says, I don't know if the Vols get in at 10-2. I think that's a little strong. Again, you have to show me an SEC team at 10-2 that doesn't get in. Might happen, but you'd have to show me that.
Right. All right, last thing for you, Tony. Really appreciate your
time.
What do you think will be the matchup or matchups that decide this game on Saturday, Tennessee, Alabama?
You tell me how Tennessee blocks. Alabama does not pressure quarterbacks. If that continues on Saturday, the Vols have an excellent chance of winning the game. Now, Tennessee's tackles haven't been able to block air, let alone a defender on the other side. The other thing is, conversely, Tennessee's line needs to create pressure. This James Pierce Jr., money plays in this league so far has been there. In the non-league, we were all going, is he on the side of a milk carton? APB for James Pierce Jr. Early in the year, in one of the Crip games, they only played him like 11 snaps. He has made his presence known and made championship plays. Last week, Graham Mertz, by the way, hate to see what happened to him. That injury, you never want to see a guy go out like that. Awful. Graham Mertz is reaching ball on the goal line, and James Pierce Jr. reached out and took the ball right out of his hands, which is, hey, I'm paying attention. I'm in the moment here, making a championship play. In the money downs, he has been very good for Tennessee. You tell me how those matchups go tomorrow, and I'm going to tell you who the winner is. Because if Alabama can block Tennessee's defensive line and Alabama can put some pressure on Tennessee's young quarterback, they've got an excellent chance, and I mean an excellent chance of winning tomorrow, to winning Saturday.
Right, and that's a great point by you, Tony, because James Pierce, these are the games where these draft evaluators, they don't care what you do against Kent State and this, that, and the other. This is the film. This and Georgia are going to be the ones that they're studying and seeing what he did in those games. And if he really is, certainly I think he'll be a first-round pick. But if he's a top 10-ish type player, it's going to be dictated by his performance, I think, in large part by what he does on Saturday.
These games are different, man. And you know what? It's the same for those quarterbacks. You know, guys have played tell me that when you get in these games, everything goes out the window. In other words, you're playing quarterback, you got to sell out. Maybe in another game, you'd get on the ground, dive, kneel down, whatever it is when you're running. In this game, you take on a linebacker. You know, these games are different. And I like to think that it's what makes college football a little different. You don't save yourself like you do in the NFL when you play in these signature games. I mean, look at me right now. I'm going to show you this because I've been kind of fidgeting around while we're talking, but I've got not one but two ice packs on my back right now. I'm already pre-medicating and getting ready for the weekend. By the way, non-contact injuries, in case people are wondering. 2 ice packs, SEC Mike. I don't know how many guys you've had in here that have 2 ice packs, but
I think you're a first. You are an original, Tony. Before you go, tell my audience, if they don't know already, how do they follow you and how do they find the show?
tclub.team is how you find me. Again, tclub.team. And I want to thank the father of SEC Mike for connecting us all those years ago. Boy, that's pretty strong. tclub.team is how you find me. And go Vols go, as we say around here.
Yes, absolutely. All right, Tony.